Machine, he hurriedly slapped the paint of diplomacy over a rather box-like plan he had conceived. It was based upon some trade lasts gleaned at dancing school, to the effect that he was awful good-looking and English, sort of. "Myra," he said, lowering his voice and choosing his words carefully, "I beg 1,000 pardons. Can you ever forgive me?" She regarded him gravely, his intent green eyes, his mouth, that to her 13-year-old arrow-collar taste was the quintessence of romance. Yes, Myra could forgive him very easily. "Why, yes, sure." He looked at her again, and then dropped his eyes. He had lashes. "I'm awful," he said sadly. "I'm different. I don't know why I make faux pas. 'Cause I don't care, I suppose." Then, recklessly, "I been smoking too much. I got tobacco heart." Myra pictured an all-night tobacco debauch, with Amory pale and reeling from the effects of nicotined lungs. She gave a little gasp. "Oh, Amory, don't smoke. You'll stunt your growth." "I don't care," he persisted gloomily. "I gotta. I got the habit. I've done a lot of things that if my fambly knew..." He hesitated, giving her imagination time to picture dark horrors. "I went to the burlesque show last week." Myra was quite overcome. He turned the green eyes on her again. "You're the only girl in town I like much," he exclaimed in a rush of sentiment. "You're simpatico." Myra was not sure that she was, but it sounded stylish though vaguely improper. Thick dusk had descended outside, and as the limousine made a sudden turn she was jolted against him. Their hands touched. "You shouldn't smoke, Amory," she whispered. "Don't you know that?" He shook his head. "Nobody cares." Myra hesitated. "I care." Something stirred within Amory. "Oh, yes, you do. You got a crush on Froggy Parker. I guess everybody knows that." "No, I haven't." Very slowly. A silence, while Amory thrilled. There was something fascinating about Myra, shut away here cosily from the dim chill air. Myra, a little bundle of clothes, with strands of yellow hair curling out from under her skating cap. "Because I've got a crush, too." He paused, for he heard in the distance the sound of young laughter, and peering through the frosted glass along the lamplit street, he made out the dark outline of the bobbing party. He must act quickly. He reached over with a violent, jerky effort, and clutched Myra's hand, her thumb, to be exact. "Tell him to go to the Minnehaha straight," he whispered. "I want to talk to you. I got to talk to you." Myra made out the party ahead, had an instant vision of her mother, and then, alas for convention, glanced into the eyes beside. "Turn down this side street, Richard, and drive straight to the Minnehaha Club," she cried through the speaking tube. Amory sank back against the cushions with a sigh of relief. "I can kiss her," he thought. "I'll bet I can. I'll bet I can." Overhead the sky was half crystalline, half misty, and the night around was chill and vibrant with rich tension. From the country club steps the road stretched away, dark creases on the white blanket, huge heaps of snow lining the sides like the tracks of giant moles. They lingered for a moment on the steps, and watched the white holiday moon. "Pale moons like that one," Amory made a vague gesture, "make people mystérieuse. You look like a young witch with her cap off and her hair sort of mussed." Her hands clutched at her hair. "Oh, leave it. It looks good." They drifted up the stairs, and Myra led the way into the little den of his dreams, where a cosy fire was burning before a big sink-down couch. A few years later this was to be a great stage for Amory, a cradle for many an emotional crisis. Now they talked for a moment about bobbing parties. "There's always a bunch of shy fellas," he commented, "sitting at the tail of the bob, sort o' lookin' and whisperin' and pushin' each other off. Then there's always some crazy cross-eyed girl" he gave a terrifying imitation. "She's always talkin' hard, sorter, to the chaperon." "You're such a funny boy," puzzled Myra. "How d'you mean?" Amory gave immediate attention, on his own ground at last. "Oh, always talking about crazy things. Why don't you come skiing with Marylyn and I to-morrow?" "I don't like girls in the daytime," he said shortly, and then, thinking this a bit abrupt, he added, "But I like you." He cleared his throat. "I like you first, and second, and third." Myra's eyes became dreamy. What a story this would make to tell Marylyn! Here on the couch with this wonderful-looking boy, the little fire, the sense that they were alone in the great building. Myra capitulated. The atmosphere was too appropriate. "I like you the first 25," she confessed, her voice trembling, "and Froggy Parker 26th." Froggy had fallen 25 places in 1 hour. As yet he had not even noticed it. But Amory, being on the spot, leaned over quickly and kissed Myra's cheek. He had never kissed a girl before, and he tasted his lips curiously, as if he had munched some new fruit. Then their lips brushed like young wild flowers in the wind. "We're awful," rejoined Myra gently. She slipped her hand into his. Her head drooped against his shoulder. Sudden revulsion seized Amory, disgust, loathing for the whole incident. He desired frantically to be away, never to see Myra again, never to kiss anyone. He became conscious of his face and hers, of their clinging hands, and he wanted to creep out of his body and hide somewhere safe, out of sight, up in the corner of his mind. "Kiss me again." Her voice came out of a great void. "I don't want to," he heard himself saying. There was another pause. "I don't want to," he repeated passionately. Myra sprang up, her cheeks pink with bruised vanity, the great bow on the back of her head trembling sympathetically. "I hate you!" she cried. "Don't you ever dare to speak to me again." "What?" stammered Amory. "I'll tell Mama you kissed me. I will, too. I will, too. I'll tell Mama, and she won't let me play with you." Amory rose and stared at her helplessly, as though she were a new animal of whose presence on the earth he had not heretofore been aware. The door opened suddenly, and Myra's mother appeared on the threshold, fumbling with her lorgnette. "Well," she began, adjusting it benignantly, "the man at the desk told me you two children were up here. How do you do, Amory?" Amory watched Myra and waited for the crash. But none came. The pout faded, the high pink subsided, and Myra's voice was placid as a summer lake when she answered her mother. "Oh, we started so late, Mama, that I thought we might as well." He heard from below the shrieks of laughter, and smelled the vapid odor of hot chocolate and tea cakes as he silently followed mother and daughter downstairs. The sound of the gramophone mingled with the voices of many girls humming the air, and a faint glow was born and spread over him. Casey Jones mounted to the cabin, Casey Jones with his orders in his hand. Casey Jones mounted to the cabin, took his farewell journey to the promised land. End of Part 1 of Chapter 1 of Book 1.